My name is Dr. Sparkman. I am Assistant Professor at Old Dominion University. The title of this study is Parenting Differences in Minority Families, Implications for Practice in Hispanic and African American Families. Parenting dimensions have gained attention in family research. However, researchers have often focused on warmth and demandingness, which are only 2 of the 6 parenting dimensions, thus identifying a need for further research. Additionally, family research has found significant relationships between parenting dimensions and outcomes in families and children. Few studies have examined differences in parenting dimensions among Hispanic and African American families when these populations are compared, further substantiating the need for research on this topic. This study compares and assesses differences between Hispanic, defined as Latino descent, and African American families in terms of parenting dimensions. It also addresses a gap in the research that does not assess all parenting dimensions amongst these populations. Furthermore, this study establishes the use of Bowen family systems theory and human ecology theory in Hispanic and African American families. Hispanic and African American families that access Head Start programs were utilized in this study. Group differences amongst this population were explored in terms of parenting dimensions. These populations were chosen for this study because of their presence in Head Start, as well as the call for further research on ethnically diverse populations. This presentation is based on the dissertation work by Dr. Sparkman. This paper is organized in several sections: a review of literature, theoretical framework, methodology, the results, a discussion, implications for practice, and future research, and then the conclusion. Baumer, 1966, identified 3 parenting styles: permissive parenting, authoritarian parenting, and authoritative parenting. Additional in-depth research on parenting styles resulted in the study of the 6 dimensions of parenting, which are warmth, autonomy support, structure, chaos, rejection, and coercion. Parenting dimensions are defined as the features and qualities used to capture parent nature. Each parenting style has a parenting dimension or combination of parenting dimensions characteristic of a specific parenting style. For example, authoritative parenting has been associated with parenting dimensions of structure and autonomy support. Authoritarian parenting style has been associated with high demandingness and low responsiveness parenting dimensions. In addition, researchers focusing on specific dimensions identify important influences of parenting dimensions on children and adolescents. Rejection and warmth have been noted as dimensions that influence parent-child relationships. Responsiveness is known as autonomy support, and demandingness is known as structure, and these parenting dimensions are suggested to account for much of the children's growth during adolescence. The study of parenting dimensions enables a broader view of parenting, as parenting dimensions are noted as the core features of parenting style, thus considered building blocks of parenting research. The lack of research on interaction between culturally relevant parenting and universally identified parenting limits the perception of parenting diversity among minority families, especially those from lower socioeconomic communities that lack the benefits of substantial resources. As such, empirical research is limited on integrated cultural and universal parenting strategies intended to benefit minority populations. Amato and Fowler, 2002, contend most studies regarding parenting dimensions are based on samples of white, 2-parent, middle-class families, therefore leaving a gap in their application to Hispanic or African American families. Therefore, parenting dimensions are important in understanding parent differences, thus vital in the study of parenting differences in minority families. Furthermore, researchers contend that Baumann's parenting styles do not fully capture the nature of Hispanic parenting practices, specifically in those Latino parents. Hispanic parents are characterized as protective parents. During conflict, Latino parents remain protective of children regardless of the level of conflict. In comparison with other populations, Hispanic parents use less corporal punishment than European Americans and African Americans. Hispanic parents have been found to be more permissive than African American parents. Furthermore, Hispanic and African American children have more respect for parents than European children in at least one study. African American parenting practices differ from the parenting practices of other populations. African American parents have positive attitudes towards corporal punishment and use it more frequently than European Americans. Furthermore, economic stress is associated with increased physical punishment among African American parents. Low-income African American parents are more frequently depressed and have fewer positive interactions with their children than higher-income families. Additionally, positive parenting practices among African American parents are associated with lower depression symptoms amongst mothers, fewer externalizing and internalizing behavior problems amongst children, and lower family conflict. Evidence that differences exist among Hispanic and African American parenting practices, along with recommendations for future research on parenting, have a more ethnically diverse focus, make these ethnic groups valuable to the efforts of this study and tended to explore culturally diverse parenting. This study examines parenting dimensions, which are also characteristic of parents' actions, moods, and attitudes. Bowen's tenets of multi-generational transmission and family projection process accounts for the variations found in parenting, which are explored in this study through the examination of the building blocks of parenting in culturally different families. Bowen's tenets of multi-generational transmission and family projection process takes notes of the role of the parent by identifying the process in which parents transmit information, emotional reactions, and behaviors to his or her offspring. Multi-generational transmission and family projection process relates to this study by accounting for the differences among parenting moods, attitudes, and actions. This study further addresses this variation by examining group differences among Hispanic and African American families. Bowen family system theory guides this research by bringing understanding to the role of the parent in balancing the family system and the functioning of the family as a whole. The parent's parenting actions influence his or her choices in maintaining congruence, which influences the family system. However, Bowen family system theory does not account for the diversity found in this study, as it is not been developed to be used amongst diverse populations. The inclusion of the human ecological theory is used to account for cultural differences found in minority populations. The family ecosystem component of the human ecology theory accounts for the complexity of minority families and supports the population focus of this study. Phoenix and Griffer state the human ecological framework is suggested for studying the family in all of its diverse forms, as well as its interaction with all its environments. This theory holds the basic assumption that the family is fundamental. It is a microsystem comprised of individual and family needs, values, and goals, and that communication, decision-making, and resource management are processes within the family. It further contends that the quality of life of individuals and families are interdependent among multiple environments and interactions. The family ecosystem illuminates complex relationships between individuals, families, and environments. Phoenix and Griffer state, within the family ecosystem approach, several important topics can be addressed to understand ethnic minority families. This study is unique and different because of its examination of all 6 parenting dimensions in minority families, coupled with the application of a theoretical framework that takes into account the complexities of this population. Bowen theory takes into account the variations found in parenting, while human ecology theory accounts for the complexities found in minority families. Quantitative methodology was employed to examine group differences among Hispanic and African American families. Differences were identified using multivariate analysis of variance. This study addressed the research question, what are the parenting dimensions differences between Hispanic and African American families that access inner-city Head Start programs? It was hypothesized that significant differences exist in parenting dimensions for Hispanic versus African American families that access Head Start programs. This hypothesis was supported by previous research efforts that have noted specific differences in the parenting practices of Hispanic and African American families when compared to other populations. Cluster sampling was employed in which participants were selected based on their participation in the Head Start program. Hispanic and African American parents were sampled from inner-city Head Start programs in a large city in the East North Central states. Head Start was chosen for this study because of its comprehensive focus on parent involvement and the substantial number of Hispanic and African American families who participate in the program. The criteria for participation in this study was participants must be 18 years of age or older, participants must have a child or children enrolled in the inner-city Head Start program, participants must be the biological mother of the Head Start child, and participants must identify themselves as either Hispanic or African American. The sample consisted of 110 women, 50% N equals 55 were Hispanic, and 50% N equals 55 were African American, who ranged in age from 18 to 58. Approximately 47.3% were never married, and 37.3% were married. Regarding educational attainment, the largest group of women, 25.5%, N equals 28, had 1 or more years of college and no degree, and 14.5% were high school graduates or the equivalent. The majority of respondents were either employed, which was 66.4%, or self-employed, which is 4.5%. Once institutional review board approval was obtained, interested parents were scheduled to complete a demographic questionnaire and a survey, which were available in both English and Spanish. Informed consent was obtained prior to administering surveys. Parent and Social Context Questionnaire measured the parenting dimensions of warmth, rejection, structure, chaos, autonomy support, and coercion. The survey consisted of 30 questions, 5 addressing each of the aforementioned parenting dimensions. The questions were summed to create a measure of each dimension. Validity and reliability for this assessment instrument was determined by using a sample of 645 mothers and 567 fathers. Validity was determined in relation to similar studies. Data analysis was analyzed using SPSS statistical software. Multivariate analysis of variance was used to examine group comparisons amongst Hispanic and African American families in terms of parenting dimensions. Multivariate tests were interpreted to find the significant differences between groups. F-test for Whoops Lambda was used to examine if there were significant differences between groups. If alpha level was less than 0.05, it was concluded that there was a statistically significant difference between groups. If differences were noted, a post hoc test was conducted at the univariate level. Results are reported in table format and by discussion of findings. Analysis of variance was utilized to examine group differences. The multivariate results for race or ethnicity were significantly significant. Univariate testing found that African American women scored significantly higher than Hispanic women in the warmth parenting dimension. Hispanic women scored significantly higher than African American women in the rejection parenting dimension. There was no significant difference in the structure parenting dimension and the chaos parenting dimension between Hispanic and African American women. African American women scored significantly higher in autonomy support parenting dimension than Hispanic women. Hispanic females scored significantly higher in the coercion parenting dimension than African American women. Significant differences exist in parenting dimensions amongst the populations examined, suggesting that there are differences in the parenting of these populations. African American families scored significantly higher in warmth and autonomy support than Hispanic families. Hispanic families scored significantly higher in rejection and coercion than African American families. 4 out of 6 comparisons were significant. Therefore, the hypothesis is supported and the null hypothesis was rejected in this study. The scope of this study is limited. Due to the possibility of unequal representation and lack of visibility of fathers, they were not included in this study. As such, the results of this study is focused specifically on the mother's perspective. Furthermore, this study included cluster sampling, which impacts the generalization of the study's results to Hispanic and African American families. The small sample size also impacts the ability to generalize amongst populations. It was hypothesized that significant differences exist in parenting dimensions for Hispanic versus African American families that access inner-city Head Start programs. Through the results of this study, it may be concluded that this hypothesis is correct in regards to the population studied. The Hispanic families who participated scored significantly higher in rejection and coercion than the African American family participants. Also, there were significant differences in regards to warmth and autonomy support with African American participants. Even though parenting dimension differences were found amongst these participants, these results cannot be overgeneralized to the Hispanic and African American populations. Thus, illustrates the need for further examination of the influences of culture and family environment and their effects on parenting dimensions. Coercion is defined as the dictation of outcomes and motivation through disciplinary techniques, pressure, and controlling rewards. Skinner further defines coercive parenting as a restrictive or over-controlling, intrusive, autocratic style in which strict obedience is demanded. In this study, Hispanic parent participants reported higher instances of coercion in their parenting efforts in comparison to African American participants. Rejection is defined as the active dislike, aversion, and hostility found in parenting. The findings of this study suggest that rejection and coercion are significantly higher in Hispanic family participants, in which rejection and coercion may be used as another form of discipline or a means of protection. A review of literature has noted that Hispanic parents are protective of their children and utilize less corporal punishment. It is likely that Hispanic parents utilize rejection and coercion as a method of discipline in order to protect their children. However, further research is needed to fully explore this possibility. Given the limitations of this study, it's important to consider and further examine the cultural impact on parenting dimensions in Hispanic families and how this influences the dynamics of the family system, either positively or negatively. Warmth is defined as an expression of affection, love, appreciation, kindness, and regard. It includes emotional availability, support, and care. Autonomy support is viewed as freedom of expression and action, allowing a child to attend to, accept, and value preferences and opinions. The results of this study found that African American family participants scored significantly higher in warmth and autonomy support than Hispanic family participants. Furthermore, the results found that the African American parent participants have a higher instance of autonomy support in their parent-child interactions than Hispanic parent participants. A review of literature contains that African American parents have a positive attitude towards corporal punishment, and that positive parenting practices are associated with low depression amongst African American mothers. The findings of this study suggest the existence of positive parenting practices among African American family participants, as warmth and autonomy support were reported as their teaching or efforts towards discipline with their children. Therefore, corporal punishment may be used by some African American parents. However, these parents may also express love, support, and affection. Research contains that differences exist in the parenting practices of Hispanic and African American parents. Hispanic parents were noted to be more permissive than African American parents in at least one study. African American parents were noted to have parenting practices that differ from the parenting practices of other populations. The finding of this study supports the notion that differences do exist among Hispanic and African American parenting practices by noting significant differences in parenting dimensions. This finding is supported by Bowen family systems theory, which accounts for differences that exist amongst parenting moods, attitudes, and actions. In addition, human ecology theory supports this finding by contending that minority families are complex, and that the family environment and interactions are important in understanding the complexity of minority families. When making a comparison of one minority family to another, the complexities of minority families and the role of the environment in family interactions should be considered. The differences found in this study are significant enough to suggest future research focused on further examining the parenting dimensions identified and the impact they have on the family system. This study supports the efforts of previous studies by concluding that differences exist among parenting dimensions of minority families. While the Hispanic parent participants engaged in all 6 parenting dimensions, when compared to the African American parent participants, Hispanic parents scored higher in rejection and coercion, which are considered negative parenting dimensions. However, its higher presence amongst these Hispanic families does not conclude that Hispanic parents have a negative parenting ability. Researchers have found that Hispanic parents use less corporal punishment, are more protective of their children, and are more permissive parents. Based on the findings of this study and previous research efforts, it may be concluded that Hispanic parents utilize rejection and coercion as a method of protecting their children. In practice, counselors, social workers, case managers, and other human service practitioners work to establish rapport with families, assist them in removing barriers, strengthen family functioning, and overcoming trauma. As such, understanding parenting dynamics becomes essential to supporting the development of the minority family. As noted in the constructs of human ecology theory, understanding minority families means also understanding the complexities of these families. In practice, practitioners could benefit from utilizing a human ecological approach to service. This approach takes into account all of the diverse forms of minority families being served. Various parenting dimensions impact the dynamics of each family differently, which could ultimately impact the needs of the family and the services delivered. Furthermore, the findings of this study may suggest a possible need for parenting training that assists Hispanic parents in identifying the use of rejection and coercion in parenting strategies, and possibly providing alternatives to the use of rejection and coercion if used in an unfavorable way. It is important to consider that Hispanic cultural context and how specific parenting dimensions such as rejection and coercion may be functional parenting practices. In addition, training should focus on strengthening already positive parenting styles present in the family and educating the parent on more positive parenting dimensions, such as warmth, autonomy, support, and structure. Velsi, Iwata, and Anderson recommend that parenting education programs consider the cultural values, beliefs, and experiences of Hispanic populations. The Head Start program focuses on parenting, and these results could be used to build upon parenting programs by adding aspects that support the parenting needs, such as programs geared towards alternative methods of parenting and strengthening positive parenting dimensions in Hispanic families. The results from this study revealed that African American participants scored higher in autonomy and support and warmth when compared to Hispanic participants. The findings of this study showed that African American parenting participants may or may not utilize corporal punishment, but despite the cultural stance that embraces corporal punishment, this population can also express warmth and support to their children. Program development can focus on enhancing positive parenting dimensions that exist within African American families, as well as building the presence of positive parenting dimensions not found to be significant, such as structure. Head Start agencies that service African American parents may consider adding training to their parenting programs that focus on increasing positive parenting dimensions and identifying negative ones, while providing support that builds on the strengths of the family. The findings suggest that there are some differences in parenting dimensions identified by the study amongst Hispanic and African American family participants when they are compared. This study included cluster sampling and a small sample size focused on mothers' responses to parenting dimensions, which hindered the generalizability of the results of this study. Future research should focus on the limitations of this study to enhance the comprehensive understanding of parenting dimensions. As such, future research should include random sampling design, a larger sampling size to enhance the quality of results, and should include an examination of the family as a whole. In addition, future research needs to examine the parenting dimensions identified by this study and how these dimensions are actualized and used within the family. This study scratched the surface in identifying differences. Future research is needed to enhance the quality of the results and deepen the understanding of minority populations, which would be a benefit to any field that serves to support and build minority families. Family is considered the primary group that serves as a social institution that has the responsibility of nurturing youth, meeting the survival and emotional needs of its members, and being the first level of socialization and control. Each family is unique in how it functions in each of these roles. In practice, it is the practitioner's responsibility of understanding the uniqueness of each family in order to support, strengthen, and remove barriers. This study adds to the understanding of minority families and can serve as a guide to understanding the parenting attributes of these families. An implication for human service professionals would be to consider the ethnic diversity found in the client service and the importance of cultural competence. Hansfield states, as human service organizations encounter an increasingly culturally and ethnically diverse client population, conventional patterns of worker-client relations will have to give way to new forms. This study provides a base for human service practice in order to support and advocate in healthy family functioning of Hispanic and African American families. The research discussed in this presentation will be published this year in the International Journal of Interdisciplinary Social and Community Studies.